we have a fun exercise that Elly.
Yes. So this is a fun game. Okay, it's a code game. Can you all see that? It looks a bit, okay, that's great. So we have 5 quotes here in front of you that have something to do with a movement or social justice. So I'm going to read them all to you now, and after I read them all, I will be asking you which one you resonate the most with. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one. If I can't dance, I don't want to be in your revolution. That's the first one. Second one, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. The third one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. The fourth one, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you need to build a model that makes the existing model obsolete. The last one, probably the most famous, be the change you want to see in the world. Okay, so these are 5 quotes. So who resonates the most with the first one? If I can't dance, I don't want to be in your revolution. Anyone? Yeah? Sebastian? Okay, what about second one? Who resonates the most with? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. Anyone? Yay, okay, great. A few of you. The third one, who resonates the most with the third one? One has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Great, very brave. Thank you for raising your hand. This is a controversial one. Fourth one, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. You need to build a new model. Yes, quite a few of you, great. So it's about systemic change. The last one, be the change you want to see in the world. Who likes this one? Ah, that's a lot of you. Yes, very good. So what did we want to achieve by doing this game? It's basically, just to let you know, there's absolutely no right or wrong answers here. We just wanted to practice reflecting on how you think changes happen in society. So this reflects how you view the world, how you view the society. So let's just maybe go back to the first one. If I don't want to dance, I don't want to be in your revolution. So I personally interpret it in a way that if you can't have fun with your activism, you don't want to be part of it. So you want to have fun in your revolution. Second one, never doubt that citizens always make change. So if you chose this one, you might believe that people, like general public, has the power to change the world. Third one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. So again, if you believe in this, you might think that even if it's controversial, you might have to fight the existing laws to change something. The fourth one, it's quite similar. So I saw a lot of hands for this one. So you probably believe that there has to be a big scale systemic change to change the society, right? And the last one, very famous one, and I saw a lot of hands for this, and I probably think that's probably because you're vegans, and that's why you went vegan. Because you believe that you need to embody the change you want to see around you. So that's really good exercise. I hope that made sense to everybody. So now let's go to the next slide, please. So before we talk further about our social movement, animal justice movement, let's step back and think about what is actually a movement. So over to you, Ailya.
Thank you. According to Leah Hunt Hendricks, social movements are crucial tools for creating change in a deeply structured society. Movements are networks and ecosystems of individuals and organizations using the power of collective action purposefully to create cultural, economic, or political change. So, like we mentioned earlier, you might be doing different things to help animals. And when you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So We might be doing different actions and doing different things, but eventually we're all moving in one movement towards one goal. And that is how we see a movement to be. Successful social movements throughout history have influenced groups with different approaches to social change, working in synergy with one another. Because of this, social movements are often seen as ecologies. Next slide, please. So within a social movement, within an ecology of a social movement, there are three main parts: personal transformation, dominant institutional change, and alternatives. Now, all three are needed to bring about a social change. There's no right and wrong way of going about it. So conflicts arise because we have different theories of change and we don't understand each other's theories of change. And you can help create transformative change by understanding and articulating your theory of change, see where it fits in the wider movement, and figuring out how it strategically relates to others and their theories of change. So let's look at each one in detail. When we think about personal change, it is about what you do as an individual. For example, you go vegan, right? You take some personal responsibility, you change your lifestyle, you go zero waste, you take animals off your plate. This is about behavior and attitude change at a personal level. And it reflects the quote that you all liked a lot: be the change you want to see in the world. The first element that many vegans do is that they try to influence or talk to their peers and family and help them go vegan. So then again, working towards personal transformation. So when we think of some activities in our movement, that what are those that bring about personal change, there's more to it. For example, street outreach, social media posts, documentary screenings, and I'm sure many of us have done all of those things. So that actually reflects on the personal transformation part. Then we look at alternatives. So instead of changing existing institutions or changing existing systems, one restores to creating an alternative model altogether. And for example, people who make alternative milk, people who start a vegan restaurant, people who start alternative proteins and start to give out alternative proteins in the market. So basically creating an alternative structure altogether instead of changing something that is existing. And we can think of all of these. Anyone who has worked on alternative methods here? Thank you.
Would you like to talk a bit more about that?
Well, so actually I help people reverse diseases with food. I'm a doctor, and so it's making them, like right now we're in a culture of disease and we have to shift them to a culture of health. So it's a change in the state of mind, it's also a change in what you're eating, obviously, and it's a change in how you think about healing. So putting all those three things together. So finding the alternative for everything.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much for your great work. Thank you for sharing.
So then we look at dominant institutional changes. So making structural changes and systemic changes, changing laws, government, large corporations that already dictate the status quo, for example. And this change affects millions of people all together. So any thoughts on dominant institutional change? Can you think of anything that you think is a dominant institutional change? Yes, please.
We have to cooperate with students. We have to learn students for from their school best primary level about the animal laws and want to share my experience. So, some months I am helping to climate healers says Soaltee also the guest here. They are running students program or this program about the animals welfare, and I am providing here students of and Julian's Julian, this to our guest. They are running from students class about the climate change. What are the causes of climate change, and what are the main causes of this being a disaster, and students are getting knowledge that there is the cause of the large farm are operating for deforestation by in the western, and due to this reason and cause of the global warming and due to the climate change and this kinds of disaster happening, and students have
Overthink. So, over to you, Elly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. So let's go to the next slide, please. Right, so this is another exercise for everybody to kind of start thinking about how you really think changes happen in society. So let's look at this spectrum. So how do you think change happens in society? So where would you place yourself on this spectrum? Please think about it for a minute. What do you think is more important for creating social change? To be the change or to make the change? I know it's very vague, but what do you think? Like if it's 1 to 5, where would you place yourself?
3 in the middle.
In middle? Okay, very good.
Should we put up our hands?
Yeah, that'd be great. 1 to 5? Any numbers? Oh, some more. Okay, some more making the change. Okay, being the change. Making the change. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And again, just to emphasize, there's no right or wrong answer here. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So there's another spectrum here. So what do you think is more effective in changing dominant institutions, so like government, media, education, in society? From the inside or from the outside? Any numbers? I see 1 from inside. Oh, I see a lot of 1s. Okay. I see 4 as well. Okay, so a lot of people seem to believe that we need to be on the inside of these institutions. Great, that's good to know. Thank you. So let's go to the last spectrum, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, where do you think power lies in society? With the people, the general public, or the leaders of society? And by leaders here, like we mean politicians, CEOs, corporations. I see 5 a lot. Okay, so that's the reality.
We surely are. Right here.
Okay, so for those of you who answered 5, is that reflecting the reality, current reality?
Yeah. We wish it was 1, but we know it is
right.
Yeah.
So what about your ideal world? Where would the power lie? 1. Okay, with the people. Amazing. That's what we wanted to know. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So as we saw, and as you just shared, where people think power lies in society, this probably reflects the current model in many parts of the world, and we call it power elite model. So what do we mean by power here? Power is having ability to control people, influence people, opinions, status quo. And this is the elite model, where it's more of a traditional view of democracy. So the handful of elite people at the top of pyramid holds enormous political, economical, and social power. And they use that influence to benefit themselves at the expense of welfare of majority of the population, like us. And these handful of people create the state, government, institutions, laws, myth like carnism, traditions, and social norms. And these things usually disadvantage the whole society at the bottom. So in this model, a majority of people are powerless, and in this model, we can see that change can only happen by appealing to the handful of people at the top through litigation, lobbying, elections, etc. So let's look at another model. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is our ideal situation that many of you shared, where we think that power lies with the people, like us, general public. So we call it the people power model or upside down triangle. So in this model, we think that people have the power to change society. And that sounds great, right? And let's go to the next model, please. Not the slide, thank you. And yes, so in this model, this upside down triangle is very unstable. So they are relying on many pillars of support to maintain themselves. And these pillars of support can be things like media, education, legal system, policies, regulations, and it might feel quite overwhelming for general public or activists, advocates to try and make change when there's so many pillars of support in our society. But what we want to emphasize here is that you alone don't need to dismantle all the pillars at once. You can focus on one, and then we can rely on other activists and advocates to be working on other pillars so that you don't feel overwhelmed. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please, and over to you, Ailya.
Thank you so much. So in order to know one's place in the ecology, in order to dismantle certain pillars, and in order to be part of the movement, one needs to know what role one is playing. So there are 4 kinds of different political roles, being the citizen, change agent, rebels, and the reformers. Next slide, please. So the citizen advocates and demonstrates the widely held values in the society and gives the movement legitimacy. They enable the movement to withstand power holders trying to discredit it. Movement success is winning over and involving majority of the public. Citizens often hold mainstream values, and for movements to succeed, it needs to engage citizens and all people. Next slide, please. So the change agents. Animal Alliance Asia identifies as a change agent. So what change agents do is help shift paradigms by advocating and training advocates and provide long-term perspectives, support development of coalitions, redefining the problem to show how it affects every sector of the society according to its race, gender, location, social status, etc. They're less visible. They organize, enable, nurture others, and to nurture others to be better advocates. Next slide, please. Then we have the rebel. So the rebels put critical problems into public spotlights, and they put often by eye-catching methods, through non-violent actions, and they expose certain institutions. They put a spotlight on these critical problems and help spread awareness, and they use methods outside current political systems. For example, mass marches, rallies. So this is important when the issue is not publicly as recognized. So the rebels play a very important role there. Then next slide, please. Then we have the reformers. The reformers create tangible policies, structures, laws that the society can adapt, They work with legal and political, economic, social systems. They act as power brokers between the movement and institutions. Again, let's go back to infighting. These roles, all of them, they usually call each other names. For example, the reformers might call the rebels as extreme and making them look bad. And for a successful movement, we need to have all four playing their part. So, thank you. Over to you, Elly.
Thank you, Ailya. So yeah, like we went through these four roles now. So I just want to ask like the crowd, which one do you identify as? If you had some thinking. So maybe let's go back to the slide that has all the four roles, please. Before this and before this. One more. Thank you. So who identifies as citizens? In the eyes of ordinary good citizens? Yeah, great, thank you. Anyone who identifies change agents? Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. Master. And rebels? Any rebels? Oh, that's nice. I am so curious about what you guys do.
Can we identify as more than one?
Yeah, of course. Yes,
Somewhere
definitely.
between 2 and 3.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the whole point. You can have more than one, and you can play different roles in different contexts as well, in different timings.
True.
And sometimes, like how you wear, how you dress, might reflect your personal, political identity as well. So I do that too. We all do, I think. Who identify as reformers in the system? Great. Changing the law from the inside. Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. So I hope that helped you kind of start understanding where you place yourself in the movement, understanding your own theory of change, how you think changes happen in society, what kind of personality you have, and what role you play the best. So yeah. Let's go to the last few slides, please, if you skip all the roles. Yes, thank you. So that was the title of our workshop today, Finding Your Place in the Movement. And let's go to the next slide. And the answer is, I hope we managed to illustrate that we all have our own place in the movement. No matter what your personality is, strength is, and it all depends on your capacity, where you're based, what language you speak, what your strength is. If you're not good at public speaking, that's absolutely fine. There are other roles you can play in the movement. If you like cooking, that's an amazing role that you are playing already in the movement. So I'm going to ask the same question again. Who thinks that you're part of our movement now? Our animal justice movement? Yay, everyone! Amazing, thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide, please. Oh yeah, so this is a bit of a promotion. So we have our annual conference coming up in November. So if you haven't already, please register. It's free with donation options. So we're going to be talking about everything from movement building, tackling burnout, self-care, what else?
DEI.
Yeah, diversity, like importance of talking about diversity, inclusion, equity. We have amazing speakers from all across Asia, and we have like automated interpretation service this year. So even if you don't speak English, if your friends don't speak English, they can still come as well. Next slide, please.
Where is it?
Ah, sorry. Go back.
It's online.
Oh yes, online. And that, if you can scan that barcode, oh yes, we have Ailya. Next slide, please. Thank you. And we have another talk series we're organizing with another organization called Samayu in India. So this is a series called Changing the Narrative. And what we want to achieve with this series is to start talking about how equity is important in our movement. We're trying to address inequity that's happening in the movement, because our current movement is very Eurocentric, very white, English speaking, people are dominating the movement. So we really want to address that through this series. And the next one coming up is on decolonizing veganism and empowering ourselves in Asia to talk about veganism in a more culturally relevant way within Asia with local leadership. So if you're interested, please, again, there are some leaflets there, or you can scan this QR code. That's on the 24th, so in a few days' time. Let's go to the other slide, please. Oh yes, and we are actually hiring at the moment a few paid positions. So if you're interested in working with us, please check it out. Next slide, please. What else is left? And these are all our social media pages. So if you haven't already, please follow us there. Yeah, I think that's it for our workshop. So I guess we've got 10 minutes, maybe?
Yeah. So I was thinking, let's hear it from you, what you do and how you play your role between the two roles that you mentioned. Would you like to share?
Me?
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
See, I shared table with her yesterday, so I knew she's going to catch me. Yeah. So, between change agent and reformer, right? That's yeah. So change agent as a change. So we run an animal welfare organization, and we also do advocacy in terms of influencing people to change and also to create awareness. So change agents create awareness, and they enable or empower people to realize and change themselves. So that way, as an organization, we do it, and also we work. When we work with animals, we interact with a lot of people, and making people part of the movement. So there is this saying which I personally believe in, and I always tell everybody: if you're not part of a solution, you're part of the problem. So making people part of the solution, even if it's a rescuer who says, I found this animal lying on the street, and please come and rescue. Making them also part of the rescue operation makes a significant change in their mind. So next time when they see it, they know they will not just call, they will be part of the movement. So we have seen the change from so many people who have just made a phone call and moved away from being active rescuers. So that is something very, very, powerful, I feel. And we must make that effort to do it every time, even if it's easy to do something yourself, or maybe even if you think it is better to do it yourself rather than wasting the time, but it's not waste of time. So reformer, I don't know how to say it. So we work with, try to make changes within with policy makers, go and enable them to do things by making them take credit for it. So we do the hard work, but we let them take credit for it. So it makes them look good in front of the public. So that is something I feel, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Do you have a question?
Oh, I was gonna also say what I think.
Yeah, sure. Do you need a
Pardon me,
mic?
I'm a little jet lagged. Okay.
Please.
Pardon my question. The four agents again are citizen, rebel, reformer,
Change agent.
Okay. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? Pardon me, I'm a little jet lagged. I just arrived from the US last week. I'm thinking about all the four agents, but and applying it in my life, and actually we could be four of them. Like from the moment we wake up, who we are, how we walk, we talk, everything, all of our actions, is a form of activism. If I get in an Uber in the morning to go to work, and the Uber driver just say, wow, making conversations, and I usually get, oh, how old are you? And when I say I'm 46, wow, and then that's what do you do? Then that's my gateway to, well, I'm vegan. And then that's a whole conversation. By the end of my Uber ride, he's now, got Veganism 101, and I've given him all the documentaries that he needed to watch. Most of the time I carry pamphlets with me as well. And then I go to work as an ICU nurse, and I bring my vegan goodies for work. And that's how I do activism at work, because everybody loves vegan food. With my patients as well, I also do the same, as well as the doctors too. I'm planning of forming an equivalent of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine from nurses, because us nurses are usually at the forefront of everything. And unfortunately in America, a lot of healthcare providers, they don't get nutrition education in med school, actually 0 to none. And unfortunately, I see all my coworkers obese, sick, on medications, and we're supposed to be caring for the sick. So that's something also that we could, do. And then there goes the rebel. I also organize Chicago Animal Rights March. I've attended slaughterhouses. I do vigils. I go to national conferences in Washington, D.C. I do all of that. I do PETA demonstrations. I do everything. And then I haven't gotten arrested yet, so that's really good. And then as far as reform, definitely in your own community, in your own town, in my city of Chicago, we're trying to shut down slaughterhouses in the city. And we're helping the slaughterhouse workers as well. Even in my own community, just getting out of your door, just walking outside your door, you could see many people, and you just talk with them and just be yourself, and that's really veganism. You just share and what compassion is like, and the rest will hopefully follow. That is all. Thank you. Oh, and I have a foundation here in Nepal, actually, called Collective Compassion Nepal. I was stuck here during the pandemic. I was only here supposedly for 9 days, and I ended up for 9 months. And I started feeding the street dogs on the first day of lockdown. And until now, we're still feeding the Teco Trash Side dogs for the last 2 years. And I actually brought a dog with me, and I call him Garby because he's from the garbage side. And then we also provide plant-based food for orphanages and schools and things like that. So that's all. Thank you. You can do them all if you want, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, one person playing all 4 roles, unheard of.
Nothing better to do.
Well done, amazing. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
You want to share?
So, hi everybody. I don't have that much, lot of things to say. I'm here with Minnie. She's the reason why I became a vegan. So I do a little bit of activism whenever possible. But so far, so my core strength is I go to schools, talk to children in a closed room setup, make them watch videos. I have different set of videos and slides for different age group of kids. Started doing it slowly, but so far I've reached around 196,000 kids, where I've spoken to them about veganism and all of that. And then the government is probably not going to be happy if you're telling kids the truth, so they issued legal notice against me and asked me to stop it. Then that's when I realized I was that effective. Right, the kids started asking questions and all of that. So that's one part I did. So, and then I had one more area of strength where I had a family business which made sweets, Indian sweets basically. So I took over that business and converted that into fully vegan sweets business. That's So I run this company called Vijay Sweets, so India's first vegan sweets and snacks company. So I had not realized I had made so much change until yesterday. We had a small workshop. Somebody asked me how much sweets have you sold so far? I've never calculated, and suddenly it got me all thinking. I went and did some calculation, because that person who asked this question wanted to understand how much of the dairy milk or the ghee which we have replaced as a business. I was totally taken back, because in this 5 years we have almost replaced, let us take 35,000, 45,000 liters of dairy milk. Wow. We have just replaced. So, and then I was like, okay, all of these 4 things happen to somebody without even their knowledge. You just want to put yourself heart in something, it just happens. Yeah, thank you.
Yay. Amazing. Thank you for doing all of that. And going back to the 3 different elements of our ecology of social movements, you're playing all of that as well. Amazing. How much time do we have?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay, any questions? Any comments from anyone?
Hello, my name is Sebastian Joy. I have a question regarding the model that you showed with the power, like more power to the people. Because like in Europe, we have made the experience like there were a lot of animal groups who have raised awareness about the downsides of factory farming and caged eggs. And in surveys, you know, after decades, 80% of consumers have said, yeah, we don't like factory farms, you know, caged eggs shouldn't be bought. But then when you actually looked at the statistics in the supermarkets, 80% actually bought the cheapest eggs, which were from the caged eggs, because, you know, so they didn't really follow, you know, follow what they said. So then actually the many of the, you know, effective organizations actually changed the model, and instead of reaching out to the people, they looked, okay, where is the most power concentrated? And they actually found, well, there are only a few retailers, you know, supermarket chains, who actually determine what gets into their store and what does not. So instead of educating the public and trying them to change, they actually just changed all this, you know, they put lots of pressure on the supermarket chain, and then the supermarket said, okay, we're not going to offer these these eggs anymore, so they got rid of them, and then the people actually had no choice. I mean, you know, so they basically had to buy the more expensive eggs. So I'm just wondering, like, to what extent, like, that fits into the model, like, you know, like, if you say, okay, power to the people, like, because, I mean, everybody has lots of conversations about people going vegan, and often they don't do. So how do you balance, you know, targeting the decision makers and making them go vegan, maybe, or promoting it?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Amy, do you want to answer? Yeah, very good question. So I don't think we need to like stick to one power model because the reality and ideal situation are very different. And yeah, like educating public is one way, one approach, but obviously playing the inside game as a reformer inside the corporation, talking to corporate executives, supermarket chains. Yes, obviously bringing systemic change from top down is equally important, obviously. And going back to the 3 different elements of ecology of social movements, all of these 3 have to work in synergy. Public opinions have to change, but at the same time, the systemic change needs to happen from the inside top down. So bottom up, top down, they all need to work in synergy. But the important thing to remember is to not have infighting between different approaches, because we're all definitely like taking part, different parts in our ecology of movements, and that's the exact point we wanted to make. Because a lot of the time, street outreach activists might be seen as ineffective by people who are working with corporations, but street outreach activists may view some animal welfare like organizations or like cage-free campaigns as, I don't know, not very ideal because they're sticking to the ideology of veganism. But the point is that we're all working in synergy, and we are all kind of affecting each other and influencing each other, supporting each other without really realizing. So that's the point we wanted to make. So to answer your question, we think that both approaches are definitely needed at the same time. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Anything to add?
Oh, thank you. We have like 2 minutes left, so any last comments or anything that anyone wants to share? Cool. Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, everyone.